In this episode, we talk about the BJP electing its youngest ever national president, Nitin Nabin. We also talk about an Indian Express reporter being summoned by the Jammu Kashmir police to sign a bond. But first we talk about the case against a sitting Catholic bishop that sent shockwaves across the church in Kerala. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda and you are listening to 3 Things, the Indian Express news show. In 2018, allegations of sexual assault against Bishop Franco Mulakka has exposed the inner workings of power within the Catholic Church, triggering police action and nationwide protests. Now, 4 years later, a trial court has acquitted Mulakka in the matter. And the nun who had filed the complaint later appealed the verdict and is still waiting for the Kerala High Court to hear the case. But in the meantime, 8 years after the allegation first surfaced, she has decided to step out of anonymity and is now speaking publicly as Sister Ranit M J. To understand where the case stands and what this means for her, my colleague Ichha Sharma spoke to the Indian Express's Nikhila Henry.
Nikhila, sexual assault survivors often face enormous pressure to stay silent. So in Sister Ranit's case, she was speaking about someone powerful inside a closed religious institution. So when you spoke to her, what did she have to say about going public?
So, Sister Ranit's interview to the Indian Express, which was recorded on the 1st of this year, January 1st, 2026, was one of its kind because she was speaking after a gap of 8 years. She was recounting her experiences after a gap of 8 years, and she was speaking about what had transpired after Bishop Franco Mulakka was acquitted of the crime of rape that he was accused of. It is very difficult for women in general to come out and speak about sexual assault or rape because they feel that there will be some sort of a backlash. They also fear that there is some sort of shame associated with it. So, in my opinion, Sister Ranit had fear of both, that there will be a backlash from the church because the church is a very closed religious institution. And she continuously spoke about utter shame she had faced when she underwent the ordeal she is accusing Bishop Franco Mulakka of. So it is absolutely important to note that the coming out interview, Sister Ranit coming and saying that I am going to lead this struggle from now on. I am going to face up to anything which comes out from now on. That is very important.
And many of our listeners may remember the protests in Kerala that started back in 2018, but may assume that the case ended with the bishop's acquittal. So, could you remind us what exactly happened and where does the case stand today?
Yeah, so the case started with Sister Ranit giving a police complaint on June 26, 2018 to the Kottayam police, stating that she was raped multiple times by Bishop Franco Mulakka, and her FIR was lodged on June 27, 2018. So after the FIR was lodged on September 8, 2018, 5 nuns of Missionaries of Jesus congregation sat for protest at Vanchi Square in Ernakulam district. It was in the heart of Ernakulam that 5 of them sat for protest, asking for the arrest of Bishop Franco Mulakka, and they also demanded that he be defrocked or removed from the church. So on December 21st, that is after 2 weeks of the protest, Bishop Franco Mulakka was arrested. He was remanded, and on October 15, 2018, he got bail. And the trial started sometime in 2020, and on January 14, 2022, Additional District Sessions Court in Kottayam acquitted Bishop Franco Mulakka on charges of wrongful confinement, rape, unnatural sex, and criminal intimidation. And April 2022, the Kerala state and the survivor filed separate appeals against the district court's ruling. The status of the case right now is that the High Court has not yet called for hearing, but it is expected to happen sometime in 2026. Also, in a most recent development in the case is that Special Public Prosecutor, the Advocate Harindranath, was appointed as the petitioner's or the prosecution's lawyer. So that's where the case stands right now.
Right, and for listeners unfamiliar with church hierarchy, how much authority does a bishop exercise over nuns and convents?
So the Roman Catholic Church is quite a mammoth institution. Under its fold, about 60% of the Christians in the state are included. And administratively, the church is basically organized into archdioceses, which might have one or two dioceses under them. Then there are standalone dioceses parallelly, which are governed by the bishop. So an archdiocese is governed by an archbishop, and each diocese is governed by a bishop. Bishop Franco Mulakka was the head of the Jalandhar diocese. So here the biggest turning point in the case is that the Missionaries of Jesus is a diocesan congregation functioning under the authority of the Jalandhar bishop. So that means that above the bishop, there is no other authority for this particular congregation. So for anything, including, the bills which they have to get cleared, for any sort of construction which they have to do in their place, for any sort of admission of destitutes or any welfare measures which they have to do in the congregation, they will have to get approval from the bishop. Besides, you also need to understand that the hierarchy of the church is arguably a patriarchal hierarchy, where the highest position a nun can attain is that of superior general, and the highest position in a diocese is that of bishop, who's above the superior general. So there is no way by which, a nun can oppose the bishop and live within the congregation, because he is the ultimate authority within that congregation as far as she is concerned.
And Nikhila, during your reportage, when you spoke with Sister Ranit, what did you learn about how life changed for her and for the convent in the years after the case went public?
Yeah, so when Sister Ranit and I had a conversation, she was talking about the utter shame, which had come upon us because of the rape. And she continued to say that it was utter shame. She repeated that phrase quite a lot of times. And it struck me that for her, breaking the vow of chastity meant utter shame, and how would she come out and speak to people? How would she face people? How would she, explain her position? All these things she seems to have had, a worry about. So as far as Sister Ranit is concerned, the alleged crime basically broke her, is what she felt, but she refuses to be broken. She refuses to be defeated, she wants to fight back. So her police complaint was basically about that fight to safeguard everything which is close to her. So as far as Sister Ranit is concerned, the congregation means a lot to her. The Missionaries of Jesus congregation means a lot to her because she was one of the members of the founding batches of the congregation. So she became the Superior General of the congregation way back in 2011, I believe. And she served 3 terms as the Superior General of the congregation, which is the highest office a nun can hold within the congregation. Then because of the death in the family, she moved from that position. Her term had ended and she moved to Kerala as the Mother Superior of the home in which they were living. So there were 3 members within that particular home, and she was heading that home when the alleged crime took place. So as far as she's concerned, her life ended is what she felt. When she was allegedly raped, she felt that her life ended. But in our conversation, she said that she considers herself to be a survivor and not a victim because she has emerged from the ashes, So that's commendable.
Right. Also, in the ongoing case, the defense has highlighted a 2-year delay in filing the police complaint. So if you could talk a bit about that, and also how common are such delays, particularly in close religious institutions?
So this is a structure, which is based on 3 vows, of which chastity is a prime vow. Poverty, chastity, and obedience. Poverty, that they will live a frugal life. Chastity, that they will live a celibate life. And obedience, that they will be obedient to the superiors within the congregation and the church, the diocese, for instance. So here, Sister Ranit's vow of chastity was forcefully broken when she was allegedly raped. Her vow of obedience made her feel that she cannot oppose her superior within the diocese. The superior, the highest level, was that of the bishop. So this was a case of a bishop allegedly raping a nun who fell down within the hierarchy of the church, So it took a while, according to the statement which Sister Ranit has given to the police and to the courts. It took her a while to speak up, at least to her spiritual mother, Sister Lissy, and in a confession, she goes and confesses that, that she has been violated. So it took a while for her because Bishop is considered, as close to God as possible, which is what Sister Ranit told me as well. And she was very worried that her younger sister, Sister Alfie, who was working at that point of time in Jalandhar as a nun herself, would come under the direst possible punishment if she opposes the bishop in any particular way. So the delay is totally understandable in a case like this because she was pushed to a corner where, she appealed within the church. She first spoke to her spiritual mother. She spoke about it in a confession. Then she spoke about it to a few of her fellow nuns. And then she kept writing to the authorities within the church to take action against the bishop. And it was when false cases, or what she calls as false cases, got leveled against her family members by the bishop that she went to the police. So for somebody close to Sister Ranit referred to it as this, that her police complaint was a cry in the darkness, It was the ultimate thing which she could have done. She exhausted almost every other possibility. And that is when she, reached the police.
And Nikhila, in 2022, while acquitting the bishop, the trial court used strong language about being unable to separate truth from falsehood. So what does an acquittal on these grounds actually mean?
Yeah, so what the trial court observed while acquitting Bishop Franco was that it was difficult to separate grain from chaff. And because the grain and chaff are inextricably intertwined, it is difficult to separate it, and because of which certain statements which are made against the bishop cannot be considered to be true. So the court basically discredited the testimony of PW1, prosecution witness 1, who was Sister Ranit, and considered that because there were inconsistencies in her statement to the police, to the magistrate and to the court, her statement in toto has to be discarded. Or the court basically observes that the statement against Bishop Mulakka that Sister Ranit made was not true. And it should be remembered that, separation of grain and chaff has a very biblical connotation as well. So for a court to have come up with something like that, to separation of grain and chaff, is something extraordinary, is what I believe. But the court has its discretion and the court has ruled. Now the appeal will decide whether the grain can be separated from the chaff.
And also, although Mulakka resigned as bishop, he has not been defrocked. So what is the difference between resignation and defrocking within the Catholic Church?
Yeah, so when it comes to bishop, once you're ordained for life. You are given that position for life. So if you have resigned from something, it means that you have resigned from a particular role. In this case, Bishop Franco Mulakka resigned from the role of the Bishop of Jalandhar, and his resignation was accepted by the Pope. But if you are defrocked, that means that, you will be removed from the church. Your ordination will be cancelled and you will become a lay person, So even now, because he was not defrocked, Bishop Franco Mulakka holds the title of Bishop Emeritus even now. He is just a retired person, he doesn't hold any active charge, but he is still a bishop.
And next, we shift our focus towards the newly elected BJP National President. On Tuesday, the BJP announced Nitin Nabin as its 12th National Party President. Nabin is the youngest leader to be elected to the post and is a 5-time MLA from Bihar who was appointed the working president in December.
मैं डॉक्टर के लक्ष्मण के नाते भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नए राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष के रूप में श्री नितिन नबीन जी को नाम की घोषणा करता हूं। मैं उन्हें इस अवसर पर हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं तथा निर्वाचन प्रमाण पत्र प्रदान करता हूं। धन्यवाद। भारत माता की जय.
Now, Nabin has previously served as the National General Secretary of the BJP's Youth Wing, but his appointment as the president came as a surprise to many because several senior and more prominent leaders were widely expected to take up the position instead. In this segment, we speak to the Indian Express's Vikas Pathak about Nabin and what his elevation to the presidency signals for the party's future. Vikas, before we talk about Nabin, can you tell us how does the BJP usually choose its party president? What is the process like?
So basically, the BJP election process begins with the membership drive of the party. And they call their membership drive Sangathan Parv, likening it to some kind of a festival of the organization. Once that begins, after that, elections are held from the lower level onwards, which means first the local committees will be elected, the local units. After that, there'll be mandal level, then there'll be district, regional and state levels. Now, once elections to the state presidential elections, 50% of them are over. A minimum of 50% of the state BJP presidents are elected. After that, the decks are cleared for the election of the national president of the party. Let me also say that the constitution of the BJP talks about an election. But since the foundation of the BJP, there have never been two candidates for the post of national president. So what basically happens is that generally the pattern is this. When the BJP has been relatively weak electorally, like it was in say 2009, when Mr. Advani was the PM candidate and the BJP was reduced to 116 seats. So at that time, the RSS became more powerful. So the RSS in that sense was very instrumental in making Mr. Nitin Gadkari president in 2009. When the BJP itself is very strong, as it has been over the last 11 to 12 years, when it has been coming to power regularly, in these cases we have seen that it is the party leadership, meaning the Prime Minister primarily. The Prime Minister, Mr. Modi and perhaps Mr. Amit Shah, they are the ones who, do the choosing, so to say.
Right. And Vikas, what do we see as the main reasons behind Nitin Nabin's selection for this position over the senior leaders of the party? Why him?
Well, there might be a number of reasons. Of course, there's a dominant stamp of the Prime Minister's choice here. The Prime Minister also made it amply clear yesterday. Let's not forget when Nitin Nabin was formally elected unopposed as the BJP National President, he spoke after the Prime Minister. If you remember, Mr. Nanda used to speak before the Prime Minister. Secondly, the Prime Minister himself said that, he is now my boss and he'll write my CR. He also said that he's the president for all of us. So it's very clear that the Prime Minister is saying this is the person that I choose.
जब बात पार्टी के विषय को आती है, तब माननीय नितिन नबीन जी, मैं कार्यकर्ता हूं, वे मेरे बॉस हैं. अब माननीय नितिन नबीन जी हम सभी के अध्यक्ष हैं.
One thing obviously is that if you look at recent patterns, the BJP is going through a generational shift in its leadership. Of course, the generational shift is not happening via a kind of a process that the cadre demands. It is happening the way the Prime Minister wants it to happen. So, very clearly speaking, if you see since 2023, for instance, we found quite a few chief ministers of the BJP who could not have been predicted. Like Mr. Bhajanlal Sharma in Rajasthan was a first-time MLA and he became chief minister in a state where someone like Vasundhara Raje had also been at one point of time, the chief minister of the state. Similarly, Mr. Mohan Yadav in MP was also not someone people could have predicted as the chief minister. Mr. Mohan Majhi in Odisha, for instance, Nayab Singh Saini in Haryana, he replaced Khattar. Rekha Gupta in Delhi. Rekha Gupta again a first-time MLA. It's a pretty young cabinet in Delhi, but say Ashish Sood is clearly senior to Rekha Gupta even in the ABUP. So one, there's a generational shift that one can clearly see. Many leaders in the party are now below 55 years of age, but that shift is taking place via the agency of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So he is obviously Modi's choice. Of course, the BJP is saying that he did good work as Chhattisgarh co-in-charge when the Chhattisgarh election happened, which might be possible. But certainly his name was not predictable till it was announced. So I think there's a generational shift and the Prime Minister is deciding the nature of the generational shift.
And Vikas, when did this shift begin? When did we start seeing this transition?
So if you see the BJP till 2009 was completely different. The Vajpayee-Advani BJP was completely different from this BJP. If you go back to early 2009, before Mr. Nitin Gadkari became the party president, the leadership of the party used to be Mr. Advani. Of course, Mr. Vajpayee had bowed out by that time. He was practically retired. But Mr. Advani used to be there. Then we had Arun Jaitley. We had Sushma Swaraj. We had Venkaiah Naidu. We had Anant Kumar. Another 4 years before that, Prabodh Mahajan, by the time he died. If you see 2009 onwards, this is, 2009 beginning. And then you take a jump of a decade, 2019. By 2019, you see that Mr. Jaitley was no longer around. He passed away. Sushma Swaraj ji passed away in the same year. Mr. Venkaiah Naidu was practically on retirement route. Mr. Anant Kumar had passed away. The only person who is common to the Vajpayee BJP, the Advani BJP and the Modi BJP is Rajnath Singh. The only one who has bucked the trend. That apart, be it Nitin Gadkari, be it Nirmala Sitharaman, who again became party spokesperson towards the end of 2009, be it after that Mr. Jaishankar, you see that there's an entirely new BJP. Then the second change happened at the state levels. Again under Mr. Modi. So till around from 2019 to roughly 2023, we had strong regional satraps in the BJP, like Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan in Madhya Pradesh, Vasundhara Raje in Rajasthan, Raman Singh in Chhattisgarh, who were either in power or were contenders for power. But the 2013 election in these three states was a watershed of sorts, when Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan was of course shifted to Delhi as a minister here. But Mr. Raman Singh was made the speaker, which is again almost a retirement position. That seems to be his last outing politically. And Ms. Vasundhara Raje is not even that. So even in the states, the transformation has happened. So what is happening in the BJP is a generational shift, a transformation driven by the Prime Minister. And a third, a very clear pattern that we can see is that the party is in a constant churn and is getting younger gradually.
And could you outline Nitin Nabin's background and his rise within the party?
Yes, so Nitin Nabin, has been a 5-time MLA from Bihar. He's very young, he's 45, but he started getting elected very early on in Bihar. He was also a minister till weeks back in the Nitish Kumar government. That apart, he has also been in, the Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha, the youth wing of the BJP. He was in the team of Anurag Thakur, when Anurag Thakur used to be BJYM National President. And of course, he comes from a political family. Nitin Nabin's father was also an MLA on 2 occasions. So he has an organizational background, but he was more known in Bihar than across the country till, a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago, whatever, 2 months ago, when he was announced as the working president. His elevation at the central level is relatively new.
And Vikas, what does Nabin's appointment as president indicate about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's influence within the party right now?
So obviously, as I said, there's a stamp of Mr. Modi's authority here. Mr. Nanda, his term had ended a long time ago. Before the Lok Sabha elections, he was given an extension till, I think, June end 2024. After that, again, he continued and the party's election process was on, but it seemed to be getting delayed. And people were just speculating who could be the possible names for the party president. Eventually, none of that happened. And suddenly, so to say, the name of Mr. Nitin Nabin was announced. So it is the Prime Minister as such who's decided that Nitin Nabin is going to be the party president.
And also, what major challenges does Nabin face at this stage? What's on his horizon?
One challenge, of course, that he clearly faces is the coming elections in the states, right? So he's relatively not so experienced at the national level, and there are important elections coming up. There's Bengal, there's Tamil Nadu. There are around 5 states going to elections. So one challenge would, of course, be to be able to continue a dream run of the BJP. After 2024, when it slided in the Lok Sabha to an extent, BJP has generally done very well in state elections. Apart from Jharkhand and Kashmir Valley. In Kashmir Valley, no one expected the BJP to do very well. But apart from Jharkhand, it has done very well in a number of states, including, Maharashtra. It has done well in Haryana. It did very well in Delhi. And even in the municipal elections in Maharashtra, it did very well. So that dream run has to continue, for which he will have to, in the guidance of the Prime Minister, he'll have to work really hard. And of course, one challenge would be that he has to be a president who can keep the party in order as per the wishes of the Prime Minister. of course, not trying to hog the limelight, so to say. So, well, he has to now show his skill as an organizational man, also as the Prime Minister said, coordinate with the NDA allies. And this is, in fact, a much bigger role than anything that he has taken up. That itself is a big challenge that he has to rise up to the occasion.
And in the end, we turn our attention to Jammu and Kashmir and a development involving a senior editor from the Indian Express. The J&K police called the Indian Express assistant editor Basharat Masood to the cyber police station in Srinagar on 4 separate days between January 15 and January 19. During these visits, he was asked to sign a bond that he would not do anything that would disturb peace. Masood, who has been reporting for the Indian Express from Srinagar since the last 2 decades, did not sign the bond. He received a call from the police first on the evening of January 14th, asking him to present himself at the cyber police station the next day at 3:30 p.m. He was then called to the police station every day except Sunday. In all, he was at the police station for at least 15 hours over 4 days. All along, the police made him wait and did not specify the reason for calling him. On January 16, the police took him from the cyber police station before a magistrate and asked him to sign a bond. An officer who did not wish to be named said the police had sought to take preventive action under Section 126 of Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, BNSS 2023, claiming it had information he would commit a breach of peace or disturb public tranquility. This section states that if the magistrate is of the opinion that there is sufficient ground for proceeding, he may require such a person to show cause why he should not be ordered to execute a bond or bail bond for keeping the peace. Masood told the magistrate he did not know the reason for which he was being asked to sign the bond. But another officer, who also did not wish to be named, said the police called him following his news report about the police distributing a 4-page document to all mosques in Kashmir Valley and seeking detailed information about their budget, funding sources and management committees. Masood has been a member of the Srinagar Bureau of the Indian Express since 2006. The Indian Express's chief editor Raj Kamal Jha said, quote, "His work over the last 2 decades speaks for itself. He has not signed the bond as asked by the police. The Indian Express is committed to doing what is necessary to uphold and protect the rights and the dignity of its journalists." Unquote. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's episode was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Ichha Sharma, Shashank, Bhargava, and me, Niharika, Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcast and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.